Okay, well, welcome and thank you all for taking the time to attend the Transboundary Groundwater Resiliency Research Network Kickoff event. We're thrilled that you're here and we look really forward to your feedback and your engagement, not just today, but in the coming years. This project, the TGRR network, it's rooted in the idea that harnessing advances in data science and system science can help build on and with the work of existing transboundary water networks to help answer critical questions in ways that haven't been previously possible and in ways that can meet the diverse needs and priorities of stakeholders to create a more resilient transboundary groundwater future. Just a quick note, we do have live interpretation for this event. So you can go down to the interpretation button and you can select your language of choice and then you can mute the original audio. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sam for his introduction.
All righty. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hear you loud and clear.
All righty, thank you. So, can you see my full screen title page?
You sure can.
All right, I'll just take about maybe 4 minutes to give some backdrop. It's not comprehensive. The idea is just an introduction to get in our interactive part of the kickoff today that should be more engaging. But just to get you on the same page, we're funded by National Science Foundation for this Transboundary Groundwater Resiliency Research Network. And this program, ExcelNet, has the goals of accelerating the process of scientific discovery and preparing the next generation of US researchers for multi-team international collaborations. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So a little bit of the background in what led to this, we've, in particular along the Lower Rio Grande in New Mexico, have a situation with water scarcity in the Mesilla Conejos Médanos aquifer and the Hueco Bolson aquifer, where there's, in essence, we have, due to climate change and drought, less surface water coming into the region and more groundwater depletion. And it's on the border between the US and Mexico. So we have internal domestic challenges with addressing water scarcity, but we also have international challenges that compound in some cases compound the challenges, but offer some opportunities. So this approach we're proposing brings together hydrology, data science, system science, and social science to understand why this depletion occurs and offer some solutions with this understanding of the complex interconnected systems. And we have some great connections to data science and system science networks, adding social science to hydrology to try and basically add to this work that's already been done, acknowledging there's already been a lot of great work that's been done on transboundary water and transboundary groundwater. So this particular effort is intended to be focused, but broadly connected. So focusing on this issue, but tapping into global systems. So objectives of the network: catalyze transboundary groundwater resiliency research to address groundwater scarcity and natural and societal impacts. These are coupled natural and human systems. Identify the capabilities of the convergence approach, converging those 4 things: hydrology, data, social, system sciences, convergence to determine the key questions and fill the gaps. Support, in particular, development of students and early career researchers. So not only advance the science, but put it to work in the workforce, the academic advances, and in society. And we really think that there's some lessons to be learned from existing networks in each of these disciplines, but also bringing them together. And we'd like to build on that long history of important work, but also make meaningful progress to both share out to the international community and bring in lessons from the international community. And I just mentioned some insights from the climate talks in Glasgow because I happen to be there. I'm on sabbatical in London right now and went to Scotland, and the water issues are really coming onto the international agenda for climate change. First water pavilion at one of these climate talks. The research groups mentioned water. It's part of their global research statements. It's expected that water and climate will be a big topic when the climate talks are in Cairo next year because of the reliance on the Nile in Egypt. And there's some new perspectives as we're looking at, the field is developing. So we're hoping to be at the cutting edge of views of water, energy, and carbon, for example. They had really good, at the climate talks, really good depictions and descriptions of carbon and energy in terms of atmospheric concentrations, energy imbalance ratios, but water, they're talking about more measurements to close the water balance and didn't have good ways to communicate to the public and communicate to society water cycle intensification. This is leading to increased drought, and that's probably in part affecting what's happening in our transboundary aquifer situations. Dewatering rivers and wetlands. Again, this is not just a local situation in US and Mexico, it's happening around the world. Maladaptation. We need to be aware of responses to climate change that create additional negative impacts. And try to have adaptation that creates positive impacts, like, for example, balancing the water budget so that your hydrologic system works properly, and then you get the benefits across society and ecosystems. So I guess this is the last slide I have. Over the next 2 years, we'll work on different ways to engage the participants, and other networks will be looking to bring other networks together through workshops, mentoring and educational seminars, a free online TGRR system dynamics modeling course, and a number of different communication exchange type opportunities through the website, and really looking to involve students. So I think that concludes my slides, and I'm going to stop sharing right now. I guess are there any questions, or shall I just run it straight over to Christine? Well, if we have probably a few minutes at the end for questions, or if anybody has a burning issue, please bring it up. But please take it away, Christine.
Thanks so much, Sam. And our Transboundary Groundwater Resiliency Research Network is a network of networks. I'm here proudly representing TGRR, but also the West Big Data Innovation Hub. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a stakeholder mapping, just the start of it. We're going to use Jamboard, although don't worry if Jamboard is under the heading like Zoom is at LANL, you can call things out. And so we've got a workaround for that. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and catalog stakeholders, catalog issues, and if there's time, also catalog issues of difficulty. And then we have a couple other topics that we'd love to delve into, but I listed them as future just in case we don't have time to talk about them. We'll at least leave you with the thoughts so that you can be thinking about it. So we are coming from the point of view that we want to create a network of networks that's stakeholder driven. And for those that are listening in Spanish, stakeholder sounds like stakeholder or, carne holder to us. And so anyway, we're not going to literally be holding stakes, but the first thing that we need to figure out is who are the people that have a stake in this topic of transboundary aquifers and water resiliency. And so a stakeholder is really just defined as a person, a group, or an organization that has an interest in the topic or the outcome. Now, on the one hand, you could say, well, Isn't that anyone who drinks water? Sure, but if we just say it's everyone in the world and we don't target specific stakeholder groups, then that is a missed opportunity for figuring out how to be more granular and targeted in how we interact and how we support those different stakeholder groups. And so what we want to do is we want to first identify who those stakeholders are so that we can anchor our work and the priorities of the network in what matters to the community. You know, we have our NSF grant, we have our research that we're interested in doing, but it can go in many directions, and it's not useful to anyone if it only serves our purposes. So we want to start out today making sure that it serves the purposes of the people that need this research the most. And so here's a couple examples. I'll just give you two of how you can use stakeholder maps, or how we plan to use stakeholder maps. So this is, I always like to start at the end and work backwards. So this is one outcome output that we might make. So, you know, we'll identify stakeholders, which is, you know, of course, this column here, and then the column down for those listening on the phone, and then the column across the top are issues. And so you put those two in a spreadsheet, and then you work with your stakeholders to figure out what are their top priorities, what are their low priorities. Where you have issues that are a high priority to all the stakeholders, these can be places that we have early wins and that we focus first. Where you have what we call a misalignment on an issue, this is something to delve into and to understand and to see if there's a place to bring alignment long-term. Another way that stakeholder mapping is useful is that it can give us different quadrants to suggest how we interact with stakeholders. So for example, the academic institution I work for probably doesn't have a big influence on transboundary aquifers. They're probably not too worried about the impact either. So this is a group to monitor and to see if they move into one of these other stakeholder categories. Funders, transboundary aquifers might not really be having a huge impact on them, but the influence of them are very high, right? Because they pay us to do this research, or they might be paying you to do what you do. And so these are people to keep satisfied. On the other end of the spectrum, you have people who are very impacted by this topic, but who perhaps don't have individually a huge influence. And so these are people to keep informed. And then we really want to focus on working with stakeholders who have, it's a high impact and they have a lot of influence. But again, monitoring these different areas and engaging as appropriate. And that brings us to our first activity of two. And hopefully these will be fun and easy, and it'll warm us up. And I've got a picture here that Sam showed me that shows some of the transboundary aquifers at the US-Mexico border, especially New Mexico, Texas, and Chihuahua, that are affecting and impacting the lives of the people in our network today. So again, remembering that a stakeholder is any party, person, organization with an interest in transboundary aquifers and its relationship to water resiliency. We're going to now go to this Jamboard, and I apologize I didn't name it. It's a very silly name, but it's a Google tool that kind of gives us the equivalent of being in a room together with big sheets of paper and lots of colorful stickies. And so we've used this a few times, and I think it works nicely. What we're going to do is we're going to add cards for each type of stakeholder. And if you aren't sure if it's the same as another, it's okay, just add it and we'll figure it out when we bring all of this data together. And there's just a couple examples here to get you thinking. Could be ranchers, municipal water boards, could be government bodies, policymakers. So let's go ahead and switch over here. And if I could ask one of my colleagues to please put this tiny URL in the chat. And just in case my LAMO person doesn't have a copy of these slides, oh, thank you so much, Jeanette. We're at tinyurl.com/TGRR-kickoff. Okay, so here we are, and I think someone checked my Spanish, so hopefully there's nothing that is completely translated wrong here, and do put it in either English or Spanish at your preference. So we're just starting out with these green cards. And this is one of the limitations of Jamboard, is that it doesn't have something other than color for me. So I apologize for that accessibility deficit here. So don't worry about the color. If you can see the color green, then great, make those your stakeholders. And so let's begin now. I'm going to add the stakeholder of policymakers. And just cluster those anywhere. Again, we're only working with who are the stakeholders that care about transboundary aquifers. So you might think of, what group do you belong to? How would you label that group? And you probably have multiple memberships. So think of all those different hats that you wear. Perfect. We've got researcher, modeler, environmental monitoring agencies, data providers. So if you are not able to use the Jamboard, please feel free to call out something and I can let you know if it's already been added. And we're going to take maybe 3 or 4 more minutes to do this.
So Christine, I noticed there's more participants than Jamboard viewers. So is there anybody who needs more guidance on the Jamboard?
And some of the participants are duplicates.
Hi, this is Mark from Lanel.
Hi.
I'm totally confused about what I need to do here. I can see just things moving around.
So we're cataloging stakeholders. So who are the different groups that would have a stake in the outcome of transboundary aquifer management or just water resiliency as a result of what happens with aquifers? And we've got,
excuse me, this is Gabriel Eckstein. Are you looking for just categories of organizations of people, not specific names of entities?
Right, exactly. Just categories.
So I guess I don't know, I guess I'm missing something here. I see all this stuff, it all looks cool, but what's the significance of places like national security yellow just got moved there to the right? What's the significance of that there versus where it was before?
I think this is just like stickies on a big piece of paper. So someone's trying to make sure that they're not all on top of each other.
Oh, okay.
The placement's no significance. This is a way for us to virtually brainstorm and to see it in real time.
So do I have to make my own, or do I use these? And I apologize, I just am totally lost here. This is totally.
No, and I'm sure your question's helping someone else. So thanks for asking. You're fine to just watch. I would only ask that if you don't see the category that you feel like you identify with most, that you say it and I can add it, or add it yourself. But if you're seeing something that equates to where you fit in, then great, and we'll just give it another minute or so, and then we'll move on to the next part.
I'm very interested in the energy-water interaction. That's my energy water nexus.
Sure, and is that in a role as a researcher, or are you managing resources? Are you providing data, a data provider? In what capacity?
It would be at this so I'm an engineer, but it would be more as a researcher to begin with, and then eventually with application.
Okay, so I'm going to propose we change researcher modeler to also add engineer to that. So
Yes.
researcher modeler engineer.
Because
And then-
to suggest people who, you know, actually build projects, manage things that way, not just studying them. Both are
So what
not
if-
needed, you know.
So is application developer or can you give me the words? Because I think
Implementation, actually implementing something. Would that be useful?
yeah, why don't I add implementation applications?
Yeah, that'd be
Does
great.
that sound right? Okay. Thank
Christine,
you.
it
And
looks
I'm
like
glad
we
you asked.
have,
Sure.
Christine, it looks like we have Natalie in the chat is asking for another explanation of how to add a sticky to the board.
Oh, sure. Okay, so it's just clicking on this little note here. And that gives you the sticky. And then
Where's the note?
it's right here on the left. It's kind of small.
Is it
I don't know
Is
if
it
the
right next to
dial-
research academic institutions right now? Is it that one?
It's right next to Transboundary Groundwater Consultant. It's right here. There should be a little toolbar. And then in the middle of it is a sticky note. If you hover over it, it
Oh,
says sticky
add
note.
image. Oh, okay.
This is the fun of living in a virtual world where everything's Zoom and funny tools. But this I found, while it has some warts, it has so few features that it ends up being a little easier than some of the ones that are more sophisticated. Okay, I think we have a really, really excellent group of stakeholders. And I'm glad we asked, because these are definitely not things that were in my head. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Well, I'm going to attempt to get rid of this one if I can remember how. Here we go. Okay. Ooh, there's some that, yes, we haven't talked about before. Industrial wastewater producers. They probably do care about this topic. We should think about what their issues are. Okay, well, I'm going to switch back over to the next slide. If any of my collaborators want to try and organize these a bit and make sure they're all green, that would be great, but not important if not. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on cataloging issues. And so start with the ones that either describe you or that you added, or the ones that you're drawn to, that you have an affinity to. And we're going to call out issues that, if possible, kind of put it next to the stakeholder that it applies to. But it's okay if many of the issues will apply to many of the stakeholders. And so we will figure this out in a subsequent exercise. The important thing is to catalog issues and try and get them all down. Now, with all brainstorming, the same rules apply. I should have said this on the categories. There's no wrong or bad things that you could put there. I mean, certainly, probably bad words aren't appreciated, but you might feel like using bad words with some of the issues around managing transboundary aquifers. And sometimes some of the best ideas come at the end. So just add the ones that you think of and get things flowing. If you're having trouble thinking of issues, you might ask yourself, what are your concerns when it comes to water scarcity and research? And that might connect us back. If you have an issue that is just really, really difficult, I guess this will betray that I am a skier, or used to be. We'll see, I'm a little nervous about my knees these days, but anyway, I have a black diamond to put next to the issues that are really hard, but that's just extra credit. It's not extremely important that you do that. Okay, so headed back. Oh, sure.
And these are supposed to be blue?
Yes, and so if you can see the color, go ahead and put blue. Blue is the third one over. And if you highlight it, it should say blue. But if you don't see the color, that's fine too. Now, the Jamboard will start moving into multiple frames, and that's okay. If you want to take something over. Let's see, is it not letting me? Okay, well, this is where we're going to come up with the words. All right, you can, if it's looking too crowded, just head over to this next frame and you can add your sticky note with your stakeholder and then add the issues around it. I had a couple possible issues that I'll delete after we get started that come from this great paper that my colleagues turned me on to, the Ingram paper. And this is more about issues at the US-Mexico border, but by national trust and cooperation, resources and personnel to monitor groundwater resources, the fact that it's an invisible problem as opposed to being able to see a river that's drying up. These are ones that you might consider, but not important, to include. And I know this will feel a little bit chaotic at first, especially as we have a lot of different categories, but just do the best you can and I'll work on making everything fit.
So this is Mark from Lano. I'm just not able to make it work. It's blocking me, my system. So I'm just going to watch.
Yeah, or feel free to call things out. So did you have any issues that you'd like me to attach to the researcher, modeler, engineer?
Well, it's the systems engineering approach of connecting water use, the different water uses, how that one system output can be an input to another. That's what I really try and seek. For example, I really like the industrial wastewater users because that could be a potential source of water that I could use for energy storage, for example.
Ah, okay.
So you see, there's a synergy of that. So that's why I'm interested in this group.
Okay, that's a wonderful one. Okay, so I'm going to put that down next to this one.
Right, yeah, that's really good. I appreciate that.
And if you have others, feel free to call them out. It's actually, I think, nice. There's probably other people who are following along, and it's nice to have be talking through this too at the same time. On the other hand, some people are very heads down and they just they think by typing, and you should go ahead and do that if you're one of those. Oops.
Somehow I'd like national security to get tied to something because working at a national lab, I'm aware of lots of national security issues, and water is definitely one of them. And I'm just trying to think of where we can highlight that more. Anyone have a suggestion?
So just water itself is a national security, water in national security.
Well, you need water to do manufacturing, you need it to live, you need it for, lots of things, for energy, for management, and for commerce, in a sense. So it ties in with a lot of things.
How about national security implications of water scarcity or
Yes.
water? Is it always
Yeah,
scarcity or is
scarcity
it
and
just,
quality of water too.
I'm on the second page. I don't know if you can see it. I added a sticky.
I see that, yeah. That's good, thank you.
All right. And I know in computing, because I work at a supercomputer center, that's where I get my paycheck. We use a lot of water for cooling, and it's not necessarily, I mean, I feel good about, mostly good about how our water source, because we're using a recycled loop, but that's not true of the vast majority of co-location facilities. In fact, I was reading about one in Phoenix or outside of Phoenix, where the municipality is pledged a big chunk of their water to get this, this company to come in. That's great for the tax base, but that'll have implications down the road for that local community. Not necessarily the water coming from the aquifer, but they pledge, the water resources they have that they manage. And so, we know that energy is important to computing, but I don't think people realize that water is an extremely important resource as well.
It is, and that is a tie-in for sure. Have we addressed agriculture here?
See, we have irrigation district managers.
There's agriculture sustainability on the next page as an issue.
Okay. Because the green revolution was really good, but it required a lot of water. So that's, if you want to keep that going that's a concern.
I would say in addition to agricultural sustainability, the variety too. Like if we want to keep eating almonds, right? They're gonna have to.
Variety is a beautiful thing. Yes, yeah. Because I'm allergic to peanuts, so almonds is really good.
I wonder if we shall try to specify specific transboundary issues or challenges that we have to deal with when we want to build models that span areas across the border.
Yeah, like labor markets affect agriculture by creating a different, basically a schism across the border in labor.
So we have this compliance with international treaties and compacts. Let's see what else we have that's related to the transboundary. Binational differences in aquifer limits and definition. I think the national security one ties into that when you have different countries who are thinking about their own interests, as opposed to the interests of the region.
The issue of data availability to run models that would show discharge, recharge in water areas would be also an important one.
You said data availability. Did you say recharge, discharge?
Yeah, to model recharge and discharge of aquifers that crossed the border. And the ability to bring this data efficiently into models.
Got it. That's a good one. And would you say that is an issue that ties pretty closely to binational water management organizations, Ilya? Can I stick it there?
I would think so. It's it's a very common issue that I know people deal with very well for quite a long time along the US-Canadian border in hydrology, trying to integrate groundwater sources, and the work there has focused on using OGC standards that have been specifically designed for sharing groundwater data and water data in training. And some pilots like that on the US-Mexico border would be very useful, I think.
Thanks, Celia. Okay, well, I
Christine,
think, sure.
I think that could all be also connected to the researcher modeler stakeholders, that issue that Ilya.
This
talked
one,
about.
okay. I'll just move it here for now. And forgive how small it is. Okay, well, I really look forward to going through all these
I
cards.
have one more suggestion.
Oh, please,
If I
yeah.
could, real quick. So I know this could be a little controversial maybe, but equity is a big issue with water. People probably know that better than I. I don't know, social, political, and economic conflicts. I don't know if it could be tied into that or just by itself. You know, I know that, for instance, the projects in the past, like the building of dams, have not been, they've served some people, but not everyone the same, for example. So
Absolutely. Thank you for
I don't
bringing
want to
that
mention
up.
that here. I just mentioned it verbally.
And I'm just looking to see if we have a stakeholder group that we've, well, it would certainly affect the colonias, but maybe others as well.
I think that can go too close to security or those kind. I forgot the exact terms, but you had those as stakeholders.
The national
National
security community?
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and controversial is fine. We're researchers. So what we want to do is get at the truth, even if it's uncomfortable or if, you know, we're not trying to brush over the real substance. We're trying to get to the substance. So thank you for sharing that. It's important.
And that was kind of what I was trying to allude to with equity, with this mismatch between industry demands and environmental limits. And then I had another one up here, something about power imbalances. So yeah, the gentleman from Lanel who brought up the equity, that was what I was trying to get to with those stickies that I had. And I think they're on the other page, like the one is up in the top left-hand corner, the mismatch, the page you were just on.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Back one more, I think.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that right there. Trying to find the other one.
There's the imbalance up in the upper right.
Oh, yes. Lost voices.
Yes, the power imbalance.
Yeah,
yes.
that's a good one. Yeah.
So what we're going to do with this is we will endeavor to make something that looks like this, that we can show the community again, and then we'll ask for input about rating things as priorities. You know, what are the most pressing issues to these different stakeholder categories? So thank you so much. This provides the basis that lets us go ahead with that. And so in closing, and then I'm going to give back my time and give it back to Sam, and we can move to more of a closeout, is what we will look at next is where are the concerns that represent multiple stakeholders. I think we just had an excellent discussion about equity, right? And the equity of use, and as well as even the influence of how things are managed. And, you know, where are the early wins, right? What are What are the things that everyone can agree on? And where are the misalignments? Where are we looking for more long-term solutions or things that need to be studied further? And thank you so much for the trust to try the Jamboard. It's still open if you'd like to, at any point, make some adjustments or go back and look at it, and we'd be happy to have additional input.
Is all this information going to be recorded somewhere so we can look at it long-term?
Sure,
Yes.
so we have we have the recording of the Zoom, which hopefully you'll be able to view later on, YouTube, something.
Okay.
Hopefully that's
Cool.
okay. And then the raw Jamboard will stay there, but we'll convert that into probably just a Google sheet that that can be viewed. And
Right.
if that's not helpful, it will at some point be part of a publication.
That'll be fine. Yeah, I think that this information is very valuable to capture.
Super. Yeah, I know that there's a lot that I can work with there already, and I'm excited to spend some more time in it. Okay, well, I think that concludes that exercise. Let me turn it back over to Sam or Ashley.
Yeah, so I think right here I'll just put in a 20-second reminder that we're at this point just kicking off this network, and we really have an opportunity to help it meet the objectives of stakeholders represented by you who are on this call today. And that means if there's a part of this niche that you feel that could serve your needs, be sure to communicate. And one of the ways to get some of that feedback will be through the survey that Ilya is going to tell us about now. Take it away, Ilya.
Can I share my screen? Okay. I wanted to tell you about the application that we put together to help us and you manage this network. Of course, building a network is not a straightforward exercise, as you have seen, because there are many groups with many different perspectives. And especially if we want to build a network that participants would find useful and not just another fourth bureaucratic creation. Useful in what sense? So a network where you can find partners for your projects, where you can share expertise, project examples, share best practices, and learn about new applications, in particular data science and system science applications that we are trying to organize in this network. So we put together a system that we would invite you to use. You can open that tinyurl.com/TGRR-NON. Let me minimize that. And you will see that you will get to a web page that will look like that. It will ask you for some simple math, which you probably shouldn't find difficult. But basically, when you enter your email address, you will get an invitation to participate in a survey, and you can come back to this survey multiple times, where you will be able to express your ideas and the type of projects that you work on and constraints that you see, and that will be shared with others. Okay, so I just entered my email. That's a registration confirmation I get, and this is something that you will get as well if you go to this website. When you open it, you will see, it says welcome Ilya Zaslavsky, simply because I have registered before and it remembered all my entries. You can fill out this short form for yourself or for institutions, projects, and networks that you represent. So I come from academia, that's my location. I can actually, you can move that around, but let's not do that. Maybe I shall go back to these locations. SDSC, let's say, to make it clearer, supercomputer center. And then it will ask you a few things about what are your areas of interest, such as which fields you represent, hydrology, system science, data science. You can check them and add comments. And then essentially what we have been going through with Christine, if you can enter your additional thoughts about the main challenges about that you have to deal with when you work with transboundary aquifers, the solutions that you find most promising, and the priorities that your organizations or projects are working with. So I'm not going to change much here. It will also ask about what types of networks you are part of, because we're trying to connect these different networks. In my case, I participate in so-called Global Water Information Interest Group of Research Data Alliance. That's an international group that tries to bring together fairly regularly. Well, we had some downtime during COVID, but we bring together people from multiple countries who are trying to look at the data issues and data integration issues in hydrology and water resource management. I've been also a co-chair of Hydrology Domain Working Group of OGC for 10 years, and this group has worked on developing standards for exchange of hydrologic data, so-called water markup language 2. So you're welcome to enter information about yourself. You're welcome to upload your picture and add some information about your, so this is my LinkedIn, I'll just add that. So that another part of it is that you can come to this same web page multiple times. Once you submit, you can actually see a gallery of people. At this point, these are just us, those who have you heard on the call. We are members of this project, but hopefully we will have a lot more people here, and you can look at which affiliations folks represent, what sectors they represent. You can look at locations. So at this point, Christine and I are in San Diego, and Sam, Ashley, and Saeed are in New Mexico. Another interesting feature is that you can actually see how people are connected. Let's say we're trying to see how different groups in this network are connected based on the branches of activity of TGRR activities they represent. So in this case, you can click on any point and see how people are connected with each other and see what are the criteria for the connection based on data science links or system science links or other. Of course, it would be a lot more interesting when we have many more people than just the 5 of us. So we would ask you to fill out the survey, and then you will see that you will see our interests and proposed solutions and the priorities of our organization when you click on the picture. And this is something that folks may find useful when you're trying to look for partners, or eventually there will be projects and organizations here that you can also find as useful partners in your work. And if you have any questions about the system or how to use it, don't hesitate to email me. Okay. I give my time back, and we have a few more minutes for the conclusion.
Alrighty, well, I don't have my last slide is just a thank you slide for everybody. And if you could visit the website and register, that would be great. But I thought we do have a few minutes, so before sort of closing this out, I thought I'd just open it up. And are there any comments, questions, interests, priorities anybody would like to mention right now?
I appreciate someone put in the chat a recommendation about a group that we should connect with, the Permanent Forum of Binational Waters via Rosario Sanchez at Texas A&M. And so if there are other recommendations like that, please let us know. We want to make sure that we aren't reinventing the wheel, as it were, and that we're including people, perhaps we're already working with them, but perhaps not too. And so please let us know if there are others. We have a question in the chat too from Stefano Bonfa, who asks, how can we link the network in the Mediterranean basin using graph technologies? Ilya, if you have any thoughts there?
I guess the first step would be to try to add information about this network to the survey, and I just copied and pasted the link to the survey into the chat. And to have this network, so an additional option would be to add individual members of your network to that system. So please feel free to share that URL with members of the Mediterranean Basin Network. Then we will be able to see how people or projects or networks would connect based on the keywords that we specify when describing each person or project or organization. And that may, no guarantee, but this type of analysis may produce some interesting serendipitous results, which may point to areas of growth or areas of mutual interest that we perhaps wouldn't anticipate otherwise.
Yes, and as well, oh, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, just a response back to Gabriel's point. Yes, absolutely. The permanent forum that Rosario's been spearheading with others. We're sort of imagining ourselves as a complement in this area of data systems, hydrology, and social science, and particularly this connection using some of the advanced tools that we can use for data connectivity, data integration. So just to elaborate that, yes, that's a great point, and we'd like to figure out ways that we can sort of complement the efforts of that and other groups with this niche that we're hoping to be strong in.
Another part of the network is we're trying to assemble some exemplars of how data science techniques have been used in hydrology, in particular in transboundary areas, to do gap filling, to support modeling, and share these examples with the broader network, because this is certainly a very interesting area of growth, and there are many people working on it, and there are some reports that show that data science techniques have fairly good accuracies compared to mod flow results, for example. So it's something that is worth looking at and sharing our experiences with these techniques. Similar with system dynamics model that Said can talk about.
All right, we got some great suggestions in the chat. Thank you for those. I think what we'll be trying to do is compile this information, keep everybody updated about our next workshop. We'll be trying to do those on a bi-monthly basis. And then as we learn about the needs and what we think the TGRR can offer, we'll be working, like we mentioned, on a system dynamics class. So hopefully these are tools that will be useful for your efforts. And any other comments from Said or Ashley or Ilya or Christine?
Just to thank everyone who came today and took part. Apologies to our person who has the security blocker for Zoom, but I thought actually it was wonderful having you communicate via phone and give us your input. I really enjoyed all of the things that I learned from each of you today, and hope that you will continue to participate so that we can make sure that we're representing the interests that you raised adequately.
I would like also to, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we also hope to keep in touch, so you may hear from us since we have registered to this event. You will hear for us some nudges to add your names to the network. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ilya. I put in chat two links. Those are our collaborators on the system dynamics side. There are two collaboration networks. One of them is System Dynamics WaterSig that we basically established in 2019. The other one is Security, Stability, and Resilience, the Special Interest Group. Both are under System Dynamics Society. So if anybody is interested in those areas of collaboration, please feel free to join those networks as well.
Okay, well, we're on time to end on time. So barring any other last minute comments, and by the way, whoever's host, don't close the chat quite yet because we'd like to record that. So thank you everybody so much, and we hope to see you again as we move along. Goodbye.
Thanks, really enjoyed this.
Thank
you. Take care.